Hello and welcome everyone to the finale of the GP24 season. Now, today, 2 riders, 1 championship. If you've missed the previous episodes, quick rundown. I'm on the KTM, 1 point in the lead of this championship coming into the final round of the season from Jorge Martin aboard his GP25. Now, Friday's practice very well for me. Fastest. My main rival, Jorge Martin, 5th. Not too bad. But coming into qualifying, that gave me some good hope that maybe I could out-qualify him, which is not something I've done often this year. But I was really looking forward to getting into this episode. It was just one of those real fun ones where we actually upped the race length slightly, so it was a bit of a longer episode. And I really felt the longer race really built the anticipation for the race. Now, unfortunately, we get outdone pretty comfortably in qualifying. Slightly colder temps on Saturday morning really did not suit me. And Jorge Martin takes pole. His teammate splits us on the front row, but at least I'm on the front row. I'm somewhere near him. So 2 men, 1 championship. First attempt to get it done is in the sprint. I pretty much can't really do anything in the sprint till win or lose it really, and the same for Jorge Martin. We're so close. All year long, starts have been poor on this KTM. Thankfully, when it counts, the final sprint of the season, I get that's my best launch of the year, so we don't lose any positions into 1 or off the line. Bastianini has a sweep at the back wheel. Martin and Miller are battling. Martin gets it all wrong into the kind of exit of 1, and that puts him on the back foot for a little bit of an attack around the outside into McDoon corner. So really happy that we got through the opening lap, and it was the opening sector really. Not the, we haven't got to the end of the lap yet, but happy just to get through the opening sector, and we're now ahead of Jorge Martin, who has actually been passed by Bastianini. So it looks like by me going around the outside and him trying to fight back, maybe he has cost him a position to the Italian aboard the factory Aprilia. Now, early on, pretty happy to leave Jack lead, to be honest. I knew the first few laps, it usually takes everyone else a couple of laps to get up to speed, whereas I'm pretty much straight there. So I was pretty feeling good at this point. I was really feeling that I could probably make a move if I wanted to. But I was thinking to myself, it's a 10 lap sprint here now. It's going to be kind of hell for leather for this whole thing. I might as well just sit in the slipstream, use him as a bit of a guide, tour guide around this Valencia circuit, and just let me have a bit of an easier day. So that's kind of what we try to do. So we're coming towards the end of the first lap here now. Martin in 4th, so this for me right now is perfect. We'd have a 5-point lead going into Sunday's final race if it was to end like it is now. So at this point in the race, I was really happy just to sit here and try and just kind of basically go away with Jack, and hopefully if I could drop Bastianini and Martin and the rest of the field in, so I'd be very happy. But we get to the end of lap 1 and it is all systems go so far. Now we jump to the end of lap 5, and I'm basically putting my plan into practice. Jack had some very good sectors on the track, I had some very good sectors on the track. Pace was very similar. It's about half a second ahead at the line, but it does kind of yo-yo up and down the field. But he goes a bit deep into 1, myself not perfect either. But at this point in the race now, just hard to think, right, let's just turn the screw slightly. Let's just get onto the back of him and get in a position where we can overtake. Because if we do win this one and get another couple of points on the board, we could really give ourselves a lot of leeway going into Sunday's final race. So at this point now, just turn the screw slightly. You can see I'm a bit of a 10th under, and I'm on the back of Miller early in lap 6. So at this point now, it's all about just seeing if we can just force a mistake from Jack and maybe get the lead, and just try and do a couple of clean laps and get a win in the sprint. We've not won many sprints this year, but this would be a critical one if we could get it across the line. Martin, myself, Bastianini and Miller all having track limits warnings, and you see 2 pop up on the right hand side of the screen, and it just takes my focus slightly. Bastianini goes up the inside of me, and unfortunately there's a bit of contact. We're now down to P3, so our lead has dropped down to 3 points, and already Jorge Martin is eyeing up the back of my KTM. You can see he just appears at the end of the shot there. So it was a pretty annoyance really. That slight notification popped up, loss of focus, and then on that outside curb there coming out of the very difficult right-hander, bouncing around, and I just lost so much drive, and that really put me under threat to Jorge Martin. So in half a lap, going from thinking I could just turn the screw to maybe win this sprint and get a move on Jack, I've gone to a 1.5 seconds almost behind him, a bike in between us, and now I have the factory sported GP25 Jorge Martin behind, looking at trying to get past me now. So it was a bit annoying because I had to basically regroup and go again. What is also happening, you probably see on the side of the screen, is Pecco Bagnaia is having a very strong second half of the sprint, is really coming back strong. Unfortunately now we're starting to make a few more mistakes while we're pushing on. The bike is protesting as this race pushes on into the final quarter, and unfortunately once again into the very, very difficult turn 8, make a mistake, and that is Jorge Martin through. So straight away I was thinking, right, I can't afford it, I'm going to have to snap back, I'm going to have to leave the brake off, That is exactly what we do. We just roll up the inside, try to pick them up. Fortunately, they don't really pick up much on this game, but we do just run them out to the outside curb, because we do know that curb is literally like a trampoline for the bike. So just a bit of kind of race management there, just to make sure I got the position back. And now at this point, I got back ahead of him, and that was kind of the warning shot. Right, we need to kind of zone in there and focus and get a good couple of laps to finish the sprint, because we're under threat here of actually not even being on the podium and losing points and putting ourselves in a worse position for tomorrow's race. We jump now to the end of lap 9. We set our fastest lap of the race so far, and I'm feeling pretty good. We have about half a second back to Jorge Martin. We're actually gaining quite a bit on the front two. This is the sort of pace we showed when we were behind Jack earlier in the race, but we have a huge moment into Doohan's corner, which completely throws me off, and I lose a good bit of time. We're already 2.5-3 tenths after losing in that sector there, and now what we've ended up doing is bringing Jorge Martin right close to the back of me. So now any small mistake for me, and I guarantee the Spaniard will seize his opportunity and go through. So at this point now, I'm just thinking, right, we just need to be careful. We need no more mistakes, and we'll get the podium. But unfortunately, I didn't heed my own advice. Jorge Martin this time puts me up on the top curb, and unfortunately, we just couldn't really get back at him. I didn't have the momentum at that point. I kind of been ruffled. I tried to go a bit wide here, which ends up almost getting me caught by Pecco. Pecco's a bit of contact. We get just good enough drive, and I think just the slipstream now just pulls us away. And unfortunately, we are going to the final race of the season with 1 point between us. Miller wins it from Bastianini. Martin runs out the podium. Me slightly disappointed in P4, considering I had decent pace. But nevertheless, we have a 20 lap race settled between me and Miller and Martin, of course. Miller's only there for the fun of it. 1 point in this championship as we come to basically a 20 lap fight out. Whoever wins or finishes ahead of each other, that will be the champion. So it was a simple objective. Once again, decent upstart this time. Bastianini gets a much better one. Again, the two Pramac boys battling. We go around the outside, and we have to be really aggressive early here, make up for the poor start this time around. So straight away onto the back wheel of Jorge Martin, we get ahead of the Pramac, Miller, and the factory Aprilia of Bastianini, because again we just kind of get, everyone kind of gets a bit squished up in the first two corners. So again, around the outside, really aggressive, which we kind of practice in the sprint. And I felt in the sprint I was just feeling things out. I wasn't kind of confident I could just kind of absolutely do the pace. And again, until you actually get racing, you don't know where you're strong, where you're weak. So when we got to the Sunday's race, straight away, bang, down to pace, I knew exactly what I wanted to do and exactly how I could do it. So I was actually coming into the Sunday's race with a bit more confidence, even though we kind of got beat up slightly in Saturday's sprint, which is a bit strange, I'm aware, but it was just that kind of, it was a bit of a reverse psychology that I was like, well, we've done it, we managed to battling, but we just kind of maybe got a bit unlucky in a few small mistakes later on. But I was really up for this one, and straight away I'm trying to just keep the pressure on the championship leader as we sit 4 points in the lead now to Jorge Martin, as you see on the right side of the screen. So it's going to be a long slog of a race here, but it's just critical, nice and early here. Just stick with Martin, just make sure we match him. If he makes any mistakes, we have to capitalise, but we cannot let him get away. So I guarantee if he gets half a second or a second, this championship would have been over. So we get to the end of the first lap, and we're pretty close to him again. He goes a touch deep into one, which is exactly what I like to see. So I roll through it and really get on the anchors, and I'm pretty good on the brakes down into Doohan's corner. So again, pretty much on his back wheel. So this is exactly the place we want to be. Just kind of, at this point in the race, I didn't really want to lead. It was the same as this sprint where I was quite enjoying having one of the Pramac boys in front. I probably wish it was Miller and Martin was behind, but at this point in the race we're already pulling a real pace on the guys behind. And I got to the point in this race where I really felt like it was just me and Martin on the track. It was just a showdown, us on the track, nobody else there. We've already pulled half second, nearly 6 tenths. And you can see already Martin has a long look back at me as we go down to the very difficult turn 8 and go touch wide, but we can cut it back. And I was just starting to think, right, just need to make sure we stick with him. I felt like we were just pulling away from everyone else, and the pace was going to be strong. I felt that Martin's pace was really good, as was mine, and I think if we had clear track we could get away. But at this point as well, I was thinking if I can ruffle his feathers slightly and maybe bring some others into it, because I would like if I could kind of maybe get someone in front of me that wasn't my championship rival, and maybe get him mired slightly back in the pack. It is a very, very difficult track to overtake in Valencia in this track, so it was one of those ones where if I could get riders between me and him, it would be very nice and it would be a lot easier for me to control the race. But at this point in time now, he looks slightly quicker than me, 28.4, 28.5, so like a quarter of a tenth separates us. on the second lap. And once again, he's a touch deep into 2, just kind of protecting himself. But that just leaves himself open for a bit of a counter-attack into 2. We got a long way around the outside. We do gain a lot, and we just kind of cut it back. And really, I was just kind of sizing him up at this point. I really hadn't really thought about it. We have a quick look into Tyrol, but we're just not close enough really to leave the brakes off. It's one of those moves you really want to be closer to the previous corner, turn 3. And again, we have a bit of a look out of here. We have a bit of a lunge at him, and we just pick the bike underneath him and just kind of force him winding again. We pick him up onto the curb, and he actually goes around the outside, keeps the position, gets a track warning, and onto the brakes into 8. I think I'm going to get the move done, and he releases the brake, and around the outside he goes, and the two of us go very wide. And at this point, I remember we're not the only people in this race. I saw the second Pramac bike of Jack Miller's nose just appear on my screen, and I thought to myself, right, can't just focus completely on this guy. But we do manage to get a really nice little move down into Jaume Masia into turn 11, and then into the rest of the lap. I was pretty confident I could defend them, but again, it was one of those ones where it was quite a difficult overtake to get done. There's not many places where you can kind of really line up an overtake. With that one, I do feel pretty strong. Now we jump to the end of lap 5, and Miller now in P2. So I've been battling the two Pramac boys pretty much this whole race and sprint, and now down into turn 1. I feel very good on the brakes, but again, they absolutely love a bit of a lunge into 1. They get it wrong most times, and that is me after unfortunately now losing my kind of wingman of Jack Miller. He's dropped now to P4, and now Pecco and Martin behind. So two guys that are really strong on the brakes and just overall have slight better equipment than me are behind. So it was a bit of a worry at this point, but we were leading, and we had contact with our main rival. Runs into the back of me. You can see everyone into turn 1 getting it all wrong, really up and twisted, and getting in deep into turn 1, whereas I feel pretty confident into turn 1. One corner I'm feeling a bit of an issue is turn 8. All weekend long, just felt like the brakes just was struggling to pull it down. We're getting a bit of a nudge there from Martin, but we try and defend it. But then again, he just goes around the outside, so we make sure to again just release the brake and kind of run into the side of him and pick him up. And again, we just managed to keep the position for now. But what I noticed, as soon as I got into the lead, I just didn't really have any pace. I was trying to slow the pace down, as you can see here. Martin again fights back. We have a look into the final corner, but unfortunately we didn't get the move done. We do get it done at 3, and we once again keep the lead. But as soon as Martin passes us, we try our best to snap back immediately and not let him get a rhythm. But I just felt, look, when I was leading, my pace is just nowhere near as strong. You can see I drop into the 29s fairly fast when I'm leading. I just kind of drop the pace down. We're on lap 11 now. Unfortunately, a slight lapse in concentration, and we lose a bit of time there by running off. You can see now Martin's on a 4th, so I kind of got my wish from early in the race, where basically I wanted to lead with having other people around me and blocking the positions for Martin behind. Miller again goes for a very deep lunge into 1, not as wide this time. Thankfully for me though, I managed to get the cutback once again, and we do manage to keep our lead. So again, turn 1 is one of those ones where I need to be very careful. But into turn 2, contact again with Miller, and look who sneaks his way through. And then out of nowhere, Miguel Oliveira appears. Haven't seen him in weeks really, and he just appears then at turn 3. And straight away, Miller and Martin start fighting. So I have to capitalise on the fact that Miller was not on the optimal race line, and we're just trying our best to go around him. But it's not that easy. He's very, very tight on the entry to Nieto. So I think it's about right. Turn 8, we'll go for a bit of a lunge and see if we can just run him slightly wide. So we get a good exit. Right here, as we go through the kink of 7, just get to the inside and just release the brake slightly across the curb. Small bit of contact. Unfortunately, this racetrack, these bikes, it has to be contact nearly every time if you want an overtake. And we are back up to 2nd. Halfway through lap 12, Jorge Martin leads. So now at this point, going to make sure to myself, right, we just need to follow him. Just stick with him. There's no point battling at this point. I kind of would, at this point of the race, just felt like if I could just have a couple of clean laps where I could follow him, and maybe lap 16, 17 could try and maybe get a move on him. Then the couple of laps from kind of 7 to 12 where there was running off track, instants, pushing each other wide and bouncing. I just feel like they were real high risk that one of us could easily come off the worst from. So I wanted to kind of calm it down. It's exactly what we did. We've pulled 2 seconds in this few laps on Miller, and we're really now on the back of Martin, and we're making sure we're putting him under a lot of pressure. As it stands currently, he leads, which would make him champion for the 2025 season. But we're going to make sure that at some point we will try into doing, so we go for a look. There is contact again. He just leans on me unfortunately instead of picking up, and he does get a bit of a cutback slightly on me for 3. It just gives me a little nudge. But then we have the proper inside racing line into Nico Road, so he goes a touch wide, a bit like he did last year when battling Marquez in the Pecco Championship hunt. We keep it in turn 5, and he's gone a bit wide there, a bit more of a normal racing line. But as soon as we get to Nieto, now we have the position done, and he's so close to my back wheel. But now we have to push on. That is exactly what we did. We managed to get the gap up to about half a second, and now we start the final lap. He looks a long way back, but 0.6 can be easily eaten up, as we've seen already a couple of times in this race, and of course in the sprint. Down to turn 1 we come. 6 points is the lead in the championship if it ends like this. Thankfully for me, I have a bit of a margin on this last lap, but it was just critical for me. Clear track, low fuel, worn tyres. We just need to do a nice clean lap, and that should be enough to get this done. We've done the hard work laps 17, 18 and 19 to give us that margin. That's where we made the risks and took chances, whereas now we just have to make sure, hit our apexes, don't make any silly mistakes, don't run on, don't have any slides or any kind of moments like we did on the last lap of the sprint. Touch wide into Nieto, unfortunately, but it's one of those corners you can kind of cut it back and give yourself a slingshot down towards turn 8. It's still 0.6, and into 8 actually just kind of get a bit of a poor run out of the previous Nieto, and into 8 he does gain the gap down to about 3/10, but again it's one of those ones where he kind of gains an entry, but fortunately for me on the exit I do manage to pull away and keep the position. Again into Messiah, it is not very comfortable. We gained that late apex, but it was just kind of a weird line that he was slightly closer. He could have maybe tried it. 1 or 2 more corners now to keep it once we get through this very tricky right-hander, and now we have a very long, very difficult turn 13 that goes into the final corner. I just have to make sure I'm defending the inside line, so we break nice and deep and into the final corner. 3/10 is the gap. We're going to do it. You can see he's closer. We've done a decent lap, defended all the way, big wheelie across the line, and we have done it. The 2025 champion somehow. Really, there's been times throughout this season where I didn't think I had anything to fight against Jorge Martin. Couple of mistakes for him, couple of crashes, and somehow come the end of Valencia, 6 points we win it by. Absolutely delighted with this one, because I really felt the last few rounds ever since the DNF in Japan, I went on a good run of winning races, getting good performances where I was getting points, where of course then in Sepang where's Jorge Martin crashing with my teammate in the sprint. It was one of those ones where just like I just felt like I had the momentum, and after the sprint where I felt like it kind of got away from me, whereas I didn't perfectly perform and I didn't really kind of make the most of it. I just felt like it was a really good one to get the race win here in the final race, and of course achieved the goal, which was the championship. But that means it is the end of this season, and of course end of this series. It's only a couple of days now until the new GP game comes out, so we'll start it all fresh on that. But here we are now for the presentation of the beautiful MotoGP trophy. I am KTM's technical first win for the championship in GP, so another written in the history books there for that one. So it's a really interesting one, but I'm just so happy. We'll have the stats on the screen here in a second. There is one really surprising stat that I'll show you in a second, but for now I'm just going to leave you enjoy the little celebrations here as we get our name on the very famous title. So our stats are as followed: 6 races won, 17 podiums, 0 pole positions. We didn't get 1 pole position all year, and 5 fastest laps. So we win the championship in the end by 6 points over Jorge Martin. But that is where we're going to end it this time, and this season is over. This series is over. It's been a fun season, a tough one really. If you think back to when we were on that Honda, a bit of a pig. Unless we had a bit of wet weather or some weird weekend, we really couldn't fight. And we got on this KTM and it was a bit of a struggle. I didn't make the leap that we kind of had hoped. Again, throughout the season, a couple of bit of developments really gave me a bit of an edge, and then I kind of capitalized from others' mistakes as the season went on, and we managed to end as championship winner. Now, I hope you have enjoyed. I'm going to end it there. I'll be back in about a week's time with the start of GP25. I shall see you then. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. So long as a fall.